Oh my word, what just happened? Oh my gosh. This was so incredible, Mac. We got to get this rolling. We got to get this podcast started because this is one of the best Star Wars experiences I've had in a very, very long time.
Yeah, Andor Season 2 just continues to surpass itself and top itself. And, like you said, this is some of just my favorite Star Wars, period.
Yes.
And this arc felt very Star Wars for me in Andor.
Yes, it did.
Some of the, we're getting into some different territory and some different tones and some different atmospheres and stuff. All of this, though, I think seeing Rebel bases and, getting the people running to and fro in the background and stuff like that, it immediately feels so Star Wars. And just, they keep cranking the action up, the personal dynamics. I can't wait to talk about this in detail with you.
Let's roll into this. Let's do the intro and get into this because I cannot wait to talk about these episodes.
Well, you're listening to Children of the Watch. I'm Mac Lacey.
And I'm Alex Maxwell, and today we are breaking down episodes 7 through 9 of Andor Season 2. If you're new to our podcast, we break down every single episode of Star Wars television, scene by scene, to analyze the story, fine-comb for Easter eggs, and explain how it all connects to the larger Star Wars universe, which we will be doing a lot of that in these episodes.
Yeah, a lot of connections to other properties, to other stories. There's going to be a whole lot of that stuff going on. We're doing a lot of all of our little talking points in our description. I think we're going to be doing a lot of each during this breakdown.
Absolutely. And maybe you've only watched one episode so far. I actually don't know how that's possible after watching episode 7, how you stopped. But if you had to stop for whatever reason and you've only seen one episode so far, that's okay. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to give our general overall thoughts of the entire arc and then jump into our episode by episode breakdowns. And as we discuss each episode, we will only focus on that particular episode. So if you want to jump to that right now, there's going to be timestamps in the description, and you will when you finish all 3 episodes, you can come back and jump back and forth and listen to our entire discussion of what's going on. Okay, let's do this. Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in this arc, there are so many things that are coming to a head that we've been talking about since Andor Season 1. So many theories and stuff that have come up during our rewatch of Season 1. Have seemingly come to pass in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like all the Rebels stuff. I was, spoiler alert, in these 3 episodes, you're not going to see Hera or Sabine or anybody. Yeah. But I felt we could have. There was one point in which I was kind of expecting it.
I was preparing my body.
Yeah. But yeah, just the action, this is some of the best politics. I loved seeing stuff moving in the Senate and so much to talk about.
Now we understand, okay, obviously there was some sort of casting issue with Jimmy Smits not being able to do it.
Yeah.
All that. We already talked about that. Now we understand they didn't just recast Bella Organa for one scene. It was obviously for this stuff that we're experiencing in this episode. And Mac, you're right. I was totally prepared for some of the Rebels crew to just appear in this episode, but the way that they handled it when we get to those episodes, I thought was just so brilliant. And I'm going to be telling you, if you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, there's a specific episode that literally picks up the thread from episode 9 that you can go watch after you're done listening to the podcast, and it's going to make this whole experience even better for you. So I'm going to give you that episode as we get to it in our breakdowns. But Mac, so last week obviously was super slow, right? We talked about that.
We had our complaints. We felt a little bogged down. There was a lot of stuff we loved last week, but overall felt like a little bit of a lull, especially coming off of that amazing debut 3 episodes for this season. Last week felt like a little bit of a low point.
But I will say this, I have a newfound appreciation for those episodes because of these episodes. Like, I don't think these episodes would work quite as well if we didn't have last week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. There's a lot that gets planted, and especially on the, pun intended, on the Gorman front, there's a lot that gets planted in kind of last week, comes to fruition this week in a huge way. Huge way.
And Mac, and of course, we're going to be talking about this as we jump into each episode, but I haven't physically reacted quite like this in a long time to Star Wars. And I felt every single emotion there is. Yeah. I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit.
Yeah.
Episode 8 broke me.
So I think it was episode 7 in which I cried.
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll have to talk about it.
I probably know which one scene you're talking about, but 8 just broke me. 9, my heart was in my throat. I was the whole time just on the edge of my seat. And then, of course, 7, which we're about to jump into and talk about, gave me something that I have been advocating for since Andor has started. It's we got to have this in Andor for it to make it really feel like Star Wars and connected to everything else. And baby, we got it. These 3 episodes so far, we haven't seen the next week's episodes,
right?
The final 3. So far, these are the best episodes. They trump One Way Out for me. They trump all of it. These 3 episodes are the best of Andor and maybe the best of Star Wars.
Yeah, there's definitely probably some recency bias going into this. We just saw them. We're all hyped and everything, but I'm right there with you. I think this really does trump a lot of those high moments from season 1. Like you mentioned, I think of, One Way Out. I think of the Eye, those kind of episodes. The consistency with which the next scene just kept making my jaw drop further and further. And it kept developing on everything it did in the last scene. And, once it just got its momentum rolling, it did not stop. Just a fantastic 3 episodes. I can't wait to break them down scene by scene with you.
Yeah, and we're about to do that, but we do want to remind you of our review contest going on. We're trying to become the most reviewed Star Wars podcast on the internet, and we were almost there. We need your help, and we are giving away some awesome prizes if you go and review us on Apple Podcasts, and you can give us a 5-star review. Use the code AXIS in your review. Screenshot it and email. Thank you. Email it to MandalorianWatch@gmail.com to be entered into the contest. We will be announcing our winner on our final voicemail episode for Andor after the finale. So make sure you tune in for that to hear the winner. And then, of course, if you are watching The Last of Us over on Max, you can listen to Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, and they are covering it scene by scene, just like we do for Andor. They do for shows like The Last of Us, and they're primarily a Game of Thrones podcast, so I'm sure when A Night of the Seven Kingdoms comes out later this year, they're going to be covering that, and you're going to definitely want to listen to that coverage. And then we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear what you thought about these 3 episodes. Where do you think it's going? Call into our voicemail hotline, and you can make it on our voicemail hotline episode that's coming out later this week, or our bonus voicemail hotline episode exclusively for our patrons, patreon.com/TheMandalorianWatch. You can get access to that for just $2 a month. But here's our voicemail number, 205-259-6675. Call in. If you mess up, hang up, try again. Keep it under 3 minutes, and you could make it onto the podcast. Let's do this. Episode 7, Mac.
Boom.
Oh my gosh. Let's jump into this. Okay, so I was a little nervous actually heading into this episode because of I was like, I don't know how the fan base is going to react if these 3 episodes are as slow as last week's episodes. I think we can handle one stretch of that, but I don't know two stretches of that.
For sure. I think they definitely knew what they could get away with in terms of pacing, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, slow is not bad. It's a purposeful pace that they did for a reason, and we now kind of see why it is that way.
Yep.
But yeah, it was time to kind of turn the heat back up, and they did that in an amazing way.
And they did it right away, because we open this episode, of course, with reminding us that it's, again, 1 year later, and now we are 2 years before the Battle of Yavin. And a lot happens in 2 years before the Battle of Yavin. And you definitely want to go check out our Rebellion Alliance History 101 episode, because we talk about everything that happens there.
Yep.
Mandalorian Civil Wars happened. I mean, there's so much that happens. But this episode starts off with seeing Yavin 4, and just immediately, as soon as I saw Yavin 4, like, I was pumping my fists in the air, because it's just so nice to see it.
Yeah, and it feels like the rebellion is something concrete now. Like, we're seeing the base. We know what it becomes by the time of A New Hope. We're seeing it's starting to form. It's good to have, they're getting into kind of the conversations about protocols having to change as they become more of an organization, and as they grow in numbers and have to work together with more and more people. And it's just a really exciting perspective. I love, like you said, when Yavin 4 shows up, I start pumping my fist a little bit.
It just feels so Star Wars. It feels so good. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, this is going to be a banger of an episode. I just knew it. Like, you could just tell from the opening. And so we see a transport land, and I'm assuming this is a new batch of rebel soldiers disembarking, and Willman gets off the transport heading to the outer layers of the rebel base. So we don't just get to see the Masasi temples that we typically see in A New Hope and Rogue One. There's actually other settlements kind of spread out around the bases, and I thought that was a really, really cool touch.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the temples are being used for their like headquarters buildings, I'm sure, for like their assembly spaces, for hangars, that kind of stuff. And then they've got, all the kind of residential areas and like what would be the barracks equivalents and that kind of stuff. It's, kind of on the outskirts in the jungles. And I loved getting to explore, the complex here in a big way. It felt good. It taught me something new about a location I've been seeing since I was, 4 years old. So that's a really exciting feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's some of the magic of what you can do with Star Wars television that maybe you don't have time in the movies, is explore things like this that, like, I don't know if everyone cares quite like we do about that, but man, it matters a lot to people to see this kind of stuff. And like, to me, it just is like, oh my gosh, this is the good stuff right here. And so in the jungle, Cassian works his right arm in his new hut home with Bix. And I knew from here that this was going to be a different level of these episodes. Like, I could tell just from the interactions, like, obviously something has happened to him in between last week and this week. It's been a whole year, and he's really kind of struggling with his arm. But also, like we were saying, there's just something that feels so right about rebels being in the jungle.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like that connection to nature, right? That they're not so, I mean, of course they're using technology, but like they're...
Yeah, the Empire represents this massive machine, and then the rebellion is something kind of like... pun intended here in the context, but like, it's grassroots. It's of the people. It's organic in a way that the Empire can't be.
Yeah, I don't know. I love that. And so Bix orders Cassian to take his shirt off to apply some, what I assume is some Bacta to his blaster burn that won't heal. Some sort of cream that will help heal that burn.
It's Colto.
Yeah. Yes, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
They are interrupted by Willman returning, and they greet him. And I'm still at this point a little confused where his allegiance lies. And honestly, even by the end of this arc, I'm not really sure where he stands. Is it with Luthen and the rebels, or Saw and his partisans? I don't really know what's gone on with him in between.
Yeah, that's one. I'll say it's a question right now. If it doesn't get any resolution, it'll kind of become a criticism by the end of the series. But yeah, like it seemed like he had kind of learned this lesson and found himself, with Saw. And I assume he like took part in that mission and fought while, geeked out of his mind off the Rhino, and all that kind of stuff. And then we see him back here on Yavin like nothing like that happened, So
yeah,
hopefully that comes back around in some way, because otherwise it'll be a little confusing, I think.
Or maybe he just learned like, hey, it's time to stop doing things in the shadows and fight, and that's what the Yavin base is doing. So maybe he went back to them since they're finally out in the open. I don't know, but there's like you said, it's definitely a question mark right now.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably get a resolution to this, though.
Yeah, definitely. There's 3 episodes left. We'll see. He's got to come up.
I think so. Yeah, we'll learn something about it. But so Cassian starts asking him where he's been, and maybe that's why Cassian is so like pressing him so hard in this scene. He keeps asking Willman, "Hey, where have you been? I want to know what you were doing." Maybe it's because he's worried that he was with Saw and his partisans, and he knows that's probably not a good place for Willman to actually be, right? They're the radicals of the Rebel Alliance.
Right.
So maybe that's why he keeps asking.
Yeah, that's a good insight. Because you definitely, like, Cassian wouldn't want Willman, this kind of seemingly like impressionable. He's younger. He seems to look up to everybody around him and kind of take everybody's lead. We probably want to keep him away from an influence like Saw.
Yeah. Because he's almost like their little brother in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
And somebody like that could get caught up in Saw's spiel really fast.
Yep. So Cassian's asking him over and over again, where have you been? What mission were you doing? And he's really dodgy about it. And Bix defends him, trying to tell Cassian to let him relax, but Cassian won't let it go. And Willman still won't answer, but then when he tells Cassian Luthen is ready for him to work, everything starts to kind of shift inside the hut. Like, wait a second, you've been talking to Luthen? And so that's another indicator of like, okay, some sort of fallout has happened between Luthen and what it seems like the most of the Rebel Alliance.
Like the mainline rebellion is what we can call that, I think.
Bell's forces, I think.
Just like whatever is assembled on Yavin is kind of the mainline rebellion.
Sure.
And then you've got, the partisans, Luthen's operation, all that kind of splintering off. But
yeah. It seems like there's been a fallout of some kind, and Willman is still on his side, it seems, and he echoes what I assume is Luthen's position on Yavin, which is all they do is get ready while Luthen is actually making things happen.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Yavin base is coordinated mainly by Bell, is what I pick up. And I'm picking up on that mainly from the next 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But it seems like Bell is the instigator of the Yavin base, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. Seems like even though he's not there right now, he's the one kind of calling the shots and everything surrounding the broader picture concerning the Yavin base.
Yeah, and then they ask, what do you want, Will? Do you want to fight or do you want to win? And that's what Cassian asked him of like, okay, we're not just fighting to fight, which, I guess they're assuming Luthen and Saw are doing that. They're fighting to win. Like they're actually trying to build a real army that can stand against the Empire. So a lot has changed in this 1 year from 3 to 2 BBY.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Gorman, and in the capital city of Palmo, a news reporter reports on the latest terrorist attack, that's with air quotes, in the city, and you can see the smoke rising in the distance. And Syril exits in the monument of the fallen as the reporter continues. And in the monument, the Imperial the Imperials are very, very present. Like they're all over the place. There's so many stormtroopers, soldiers. There's a couple barricades that have been set up, and Syril passes more reporters, and it's a reminder that the media does a lot of the legwork for the propaganda efforts. Like you can just hear the Empire talking through these news reporters.
Yeah, you hear the voices of those two guys we saw in the board meeting in the first episode, or the first couple, talking about how they're gonna spin everything. Like we're seeing the results of their efforts, and it's a nasty web of misinformation.
Yeah, and of course, they're setting up for what's about to happen. I don't know if they know that or not. I don't think that they know that, but like they're definitely spouting out what the Empire wants them to spout out, and what will influence the rest of the galaxy to be okay with what happens.
Yeah.
So that's I feel like that's a commentary on some things, but we cut back to Yavin 4, and Cassian gets the truth out of Will. He's been helping the Gorman front for Luthen. And Cassian argues that Luthen wants Gorman to be destroyed, but Will puts the blame on the Empire instead. He's like, he doesn't want Gorman to be destroyed. That's the Empire. I'm trying to do some actual good with these people who need my help.
Right.
Cassian's still hesitant from what, we saw this last 3 episodes where he doesn't really believe that Luthen wants what's best for Gorman.
Right. And he also kind of doesn't believe in the people on the ground too.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he's learned any of the lessons that we wanted him to learn from that.
No. And Cassian finally asks what Luthen needs from him, and Will gets out the data pad and gives him the information on Dedra. He reminds them that she's the one that destroyed Ferrix and killed his father, and she's out in the open on Gorman. And Will emphasizes that this isn't about revenge. It's about taking out a major threat to the rebellion, and they have an opportunity to do that right now. And that's what Luthen wants from Cassian, is to go to Gorman and assassinate Dedra.
Yeah, and that... I don't know, like, I can kind of see his point. It still feels pretty personal. Still feels pretty revengey to me.
Yeah, and, even from Luthen's side, I think Luthen is actually a little worried about her.
Yeah. I do think that's a genuine concern as well. So it's, kind of using the cover of this actual reason to also get some of your personal reasons out there.
Yeah, it feels that way. It feels that way. So Cassian gets upset, saying he's late for his meeting. And as he leaves, Will says that Cassian is acting like Luthen is the enemy. And then Cassian stops for a moment and says, that would be easier.
And that's been the story of the rebellion the whole time, is that like they're all great at fighting the Empire. It's that they are also wanting to fight themselves. So
yeah. Can they trust each other? Can they do this together, get over their differences, and defeat the bigger enemy? And it's, I think these are also the seeds that are planted that make it really difficult for the New Republic to thrive after they win.
Yeah. It's almost like the rebellion had to get its hands too dirty. To be able to be the peacetime government that it tried to transition into. Yeah.
That's that. I feel like that's a whole separate podcast discussion, like that we could go off into.
We'll probably have to after this show.
Yeah.
Because like the early days of the rebellion's influence on the New Republic is something that needs to get looked at a little more, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and then how it affects the Mandoverse, and the coming threat of Thrawn, and how they handle that and stuff. Yeah. It all matters because of what they're doing right here in Andor, which I think is really, really cool. So after Cassian leaves, Will tells Bix that Dedra is a monster and they'll never have a better chance at this. And it seems like to me, I don't know about you, Mac, but it seems like to me that Bix is doing a whole lot better.
Yeah, she seems a whole lot better. We're not seeing her using the dropper stuff. She seems like she got what she needed out of her interaction with Dr. Gorst at the end of episode 6. So she definitely seems like she's doing better. And they kind of seem like they're doing better too.
Yeah, they do
in this episode. So it seems like they've settled into kind of the rhythm of a life they can get behind.
I would 100% right now, if they sold me that house, I would buy it. Live there.
Yeah, the like Hobbit hut jungle
almost
situation.
Ewok like.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Kashyyyk Wookiee home thing that they got going on. I'm enjoying that aesthetic a lot.
It's good.
So then we cut back to Gorman, and Dedra waits for Partagaz's transmission in the safe room, and he informs her that the Emperor himself wants to move forward with the original plan. They have to get the authentic Calcite.
They have not so they haven't mentioned the words Calcite unless
They did.
I missed it. They did? Okay. I still think it's going to be Kyber, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it matters. You know
no,
what I mean?
it doesn't. But I mean, this is unobtainium is what this material is. It's just something. It's a MacGuffin that the Empire needs to instigate the whole Gorman massacre thing.
And if it is Kyber, and maybe they're just saying it's Calcite instead, because like if you were to say that it's Kyber, too many people would start to put together of like, why do you need that much Kyber? You know what I mean? I don't
know. That would probably raise more eyebrows than Calcite. What I don't even know what it's used for in universe really.
They said something about it like lining the like the dish or something like that. I don't know. I have no idea. It's something really important that they need. And Krennic has been working with his scientists on Yeadu all year, which shout out Rogue One. We go to Yeadu in Rogue One, and that's where Jyn Erso's father, Galen, is. And then Partagaz says, bad luck, Gorman. Just like, sorry, this is what's going to happen because you just happen to live there. Yikes. Yeah.
Like, you're just in the way of the steamroller.
Oops.
So sorry. Bad news for you.
Yeah. Okay, so did you pick up that Dedra seems a little hesitant here? Like, maybe overwhelmed?
Yeah. And, like, she may be seeing kind of the deadline of everything popping off coming up. She's maybe having to examine some moral choices in a little more concrete of a way.
It felt that way for sure.
Yeah, I kind of get that she's starting to lose her nerve a little bit.
Yes.
Not that she's necessarily like, I'm not saying she's gonna turn on the Empire or anything like that.
No.
She's just losing confidence in this moment that she's completely doing the right thing, I think.
Yeah. It felt that way, and I think what this particular episode does is make you question: is she actually going to go through with it? Is this actually going to happen? Because it seems like she's a tiny bit hesitant and almost shocked that they're going to go through with the original plan. Like maybe she was trying to work a different way and hope that it wouldn't go this way, but the Emperor's getting really, really impatient.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what all happened in the year in between these arcs, but she's definitely like, she can see her victory kind of approaching, right? The accomplishment, but I think she's also getting cold feet about what it actually means for people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like you said, there's kind of a timetable now. This is going to happen in the next 48 hours.
Yeah.
Everything that they've been planning, it's happening in 2 days. And then Syril arrives, upset, and wants to know where Dedra is. In the safe room, Partagaz tells her that Captain Kaido is arriving. He's the Imperial with the scar, and bad guys with scars are never good news, Mac.
Nope. Classic bad guy with the scar. Featured in many an 80s cartoon, a Saturday morning adventure special. Mm-hmm. It's good to see. It feels right at home in Star Wars.
Yeah. He's got a great scar too, and apparently he's a crisis specialist, which is a great way to put murderer. That's what he is.
Yep, if you need a whole bunch of people to be quiet real fast, this is who you call. And if you're not concerned about how that silence happens, then
actually, if you prefer it to go the worst way that it possibly could,
then you call this guy.
Yeah, Kaido's your guy. So Dedra is not happy that Kaido is there, and Partagaz tells her to calm her emotions, and he argues that the ISB will be better for this in the Emperor's eyes because of her work. And we learn that Kaido is in charge of the tactical details, and she reminds him that the Gorman front has weapons, and Partagaz ends with, "We are counting on that."
Yeah.
Which, again, was the original plan. It was actually her idea.
Right. And it's interesting too, because that mirrors Luthen so closely with like both sides want this to pop off, because Luthen's back to, it will burn very brightly.
Right.
Saying that in a with glee in his eyes. It's like both sides want. Gorman is doomed. There's no hope for Gorman. Both sides want something big to happen, and this is just the stage that happened to present itself.
Yeah. And then we see Syril confront Dedra about this. He's really confused about what's going on, and he feels like he's been left out of the plan, Mac, and there's evidence of outside agitators. And Syril believes that's what he's there for. He was there to draw the outside agitators out, and that's why he came. And she tells him to go home and pack, be ready to leave when she tells him to. Good things wait for them at home. And he's still confused when she plants a forceful kiss on him, and then she tells him to be careful and do what she asked. I'm going to get to this when we get to the scene later, but it almost feels like Syril is not into Dedra as much as he used to be.
Yeah. I think as he kind of got tastes for the job, basically, and as he got advancements in work that he views as really meaningful, working for the ISB, the need for Dedra in his mind kind of decreased almost.
Yeah, it seems that way. I've got a theory. I got a theory. I'll just go ahead and say it. I think he's cheating on Dedra.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to a particular scene that I think proves it. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's not that big of a deal to talk about. But I do think that the evidence is there, and I'm going to present my case when we get there. But
we'll put a pin in that for now.
Yeah.
But I mean, their relationship has definitely become like the romance of this undercover spy relationship has kind of gone away, I think, and now it's just down to the realities of, like, I'm kind of being used, but at the same time, I'm also kind of benefiting from being used and all of that mess.
Yeah. Then we go to Coruscant, and in front of the Senate chambers, Mon and Erskine, if you remember, I've been saying this the last 2 weeks, he is from Star Wars Rebels.
Yep, and that ends up being a big thing later.
That's a big deal. They depart from their speeder, and their ISB driver, Chloris, asks for their schedule, and they're very evasive with him. They don't want to give him the schedule because, of course, they know that he is an ISB plant, and they don't want to really tip them off to anything. And as they walk away, Mon says that she's requesting a new driver, but Erskine says not to. They don't want someone smart, which is...
It's like the devil point. You know is better than the devil you don't kind of deal.
They know how to work him.
Right. There's this practiced rapport that's almost safer than having somebody new who's really vigilant coming into the scene.
You don't need that. Need that. We overhear some more news reports about the attacks on Gorman, and it's just building and building as Mon and Erskine walk into the Senate building, and they run into Oren, who is Gorman's senator, and he stops Mon to speak with her, and she asks how she can help him, but essentially there's nothing that they can do, and Oren is convinced that the Empire actually did the bombing, not the Gore, so basically a false flag operation, and that's what he's saying is like, we didn't do this. They keep saying we're doing these things, and I'm telling you, we did not do it.
Right. And you get the sense that throughout this whole year, there's been these events that have been happening, these small little escalations. And we know that the ISB is behind at least some of that. So, at least it's good that Oren kind of realizes that at least.
Yeah. It's just so, it's hard to watch because it's like you feel for the guy and you feel for the Gorman people. But like Mon, it's almost like there's nothing that can be done. It's like this has already been pre-decided. There's no way that this is going to change off the course that it's going down. And that's, I think, what makes it feel so tragic.
Yeah.
Is that it just feels inevitable in a way. Yeah,
for sure. And the fact that like so many innocent lives are just caught in the crossfire, know?
Right.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and Oren simply wants to thank Mon for everything that she's done for them because she has been a true advocate for the Gorman people, really one of the only people in the galaxy like with power to stand up for them.
Yeah. So I mean, good to know that like good for Mon to at least get that like validation and reassurance,
Yeah.
Because she ain't going to get much of that anywhere else.
No. And then we cut back to Gorman as Dedra watches from her control center on Gorman as the city is quiet below. Down in the catacombs, the Gorman front discusses their current situation. Rylance is urging caution, and he says that they're trying to provoke them. The Empire's trying to get exactly what they're doing right now, get them agitated, get them mad, get them fired up to go and do something. And he's urging caution. And Lazine stops them from fighting, saying that the Empire is getting exactly what they want by having them fight one another. And he says, we are the Gore. And if they take that from us, what's worth saving? And that really hits home for everybody in the Gorman front. They all kind of calm down and realize, okay, we're all on the same side here. There's no reason for us to be at each other's throats. We've got to figure this out.
Yeah, they can almost get that, like they can get their stuff together on that front better than the rebellion can. And I think it comes down to like the threat is at their front door, Yeah. It's that personal connection to the fight that Cassian just couldn't wrap his mind around last arc. I think it's coming to bear.
Yeah, and then we cut back to Yavin 4, and this is one of my favorite scenes in all of Andor, what we're about to discuss. I can't wait to talk about it because I'm sure you've got some amazing insights, as you always do.
I don't know about all that, but
let's get.
There's a lot to talk about for sure.
There's a lot to talk about with this scene. So we're on Yavin 4, and Cassian and Bix make their way to the larger part of the Rebel base, and it's at night. There's a lot of people out. By the way, I just want to mention that somewhere there's a little baby Poe Dameron that has just been born on Yavin 4.
Yeah, that is a really cool fact to have in mind. Because it was during this time period. Yeah, I love that. It's cool. And did you know that Yavin 4 was filmed in Guatemala, and Poe Dameron is from Guatemala?
Yeah, Oscar Isaac is.
Sorry, that's the actor Poe Dameron. He was great. Poe Dameron was awesome in Moon Knight.
Yes,
loved him in Annihilation. Poe Dameron. I hear Oscar Isaac is a weird role he played one time.
But I thought that was kind of cool of just remembering like. He was just born, and this is his environment. This is the environment that Poe is growing up in. I think is really, really cool. So then we get to a group huddling around an orange-robed woman who has her eyes closed and hands on someone. And immediately Mac was like, oh, yes. This is what I needed. I knew where we were going with it, and it felt so good. It felt so right. And Cassian figures out what's going on too, and he is not happy about it. And he even says the line, "You're lucky Marva's not here. She hated Force healers." Yeah. And then Bix replies, "She hated one Force healer 10 years ago." And she's just trying to convince him, like, let's just give it a shot.
Yeah, just have an open mind.
Yeah.
I think that's funny because it brings up charlatan force healers.
Sure.
Apparently there's been a history of that happening.
Well, imagine,
that's who
sure.
I assume Marva had beef with. But yeah, that's a funny thing. I almost get like traveling like snake oil salesman from whoever Marva had beef with.
Uncle Baby Billy was
pretty
the
much.
person that she had a big beef with.
How much profit do I make? None. Zero.
Zilch.
Why do I do it? Because I'm selfless.
Uncle Baby Billy in Star Wars. Him and Marva did not get along. But Mac, like I said before at the top of this episode, this scene is what I needed from this show of like, I just feel like it's lacking something, and I don't need Jedi. I don't need someone like Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine talking about the Force, but I do need someone to mention it and talk about it and embody what it means, like to have the Force and how that has an impact on the Star Wars galaxy. And they delivered in this scene 100%. Like, I don't know about you, but like, for me, this is the connective thread to the rest of the Star Wars universe at this point of like, yeah, it's all in Star Wars, but now it really feels like it's in Star Wars.
Well, this, like, especially with what happens in coming events, this moment, like, we'll have to call back to it when we discuss episode 9. But
yes.
It ties Cassian's fate to the Star Wars saga in a cosmic way that is important. And with like my understanding of the Force kind of goes twofold. There's like the Force that is the living, it's the energy field that's generated by all living things connecting everybody. That's just kind of like the general harmony of the world and the light in the universe.
Yeah.
But then there's also like
the
cosmic force, which gets way more nebulous. We understand way less about it.
It's the Ahsoka stuff of it.
It's the Ahsoka stuff. It's the Mortis stuff. It's the Celestials stuff. It's all of that. That's it's that the Force has kind of an active role in putting events together in the galaxy. And this is kind of a moment that indicates that, the Force has called Cassian to this specific purpose, right?
Baby.
That's coming up in, I think this is talking about
Rogue One.
We'll get more into it when we break the scene down. But so like, and I think this is the perfect way to do this in Andor with a just street level. This is just some person who is a Force healer connected to, I'm assuming the Church of the Force or the Church of the Wills or whatever it is. And also this scene is shrouded in skepticism and nuance and it's gray and stuff. So it's the perfect thing for Andor to do this.
It's amazing.
But like you said, it connects it to that grander mythology of Star Wars.
That's it. That's the word I think I was looking for, is it connects it to the mythology of Star. Yes, there is no better way to put it. Let's dive into this because it's so juicy. I could spend literally all my time here, but I got to pace myself. So Cassian thinks this is all a scam, and as they argue, the woman stops, looking directly at Cassian, and she marches out to them, and Cassian thinks that Bix set this up at first, of like, oh, this is all part of the show.
Right. Like they talked about this earlier, and they set this up and rehearsed it, and it's a work in wrestling terms.
Exactly. And the Force healer asks who he is and wants him to wait. And the Force healer senses something with Cassian. She feels at first like she knows him. So that was my first indicator of like, she almost, like the Force is speaking to her of like, this is someone important. And so she's having this kind of almost deja vu sort of experience with him, because it's the Force at work in her right now of identifying, this is someone I have basically chosen. Pay attention to who this is. This is someone she calls later a messenger.
Yeah.
And like, oh, it's so good.
It reminds me of Maz Kanata a lot, being like, I've seen the same eyes in many people throughout the years and stuff. And it's like, oh, Cassian's got the eyes.
Yeah. And so when the Force healer realizes, okay, I actually don't know you. I don't know if I've ever met you. She knows that something else is going on. And Bix tells her that he has a blaster burn that isn't healing. And the Force healer knows that it's his right shoulder. She doesn't have to be told that. And Cassian admits that's the one, and the Force healer asks for permission to touch it. And as she does, she closes her eyes. You can hear slight whispers as she touches him. We also, I don't know if you picked up on this, but there was kind of an audio cue that in Star Wars Rebels, anytime Ezra used the Force, there was kind of this sound that happened. Yeah. You can kind of hear that sound in this scene as well. It's very, very faint, but it's there if you go back and listen to it. So I think that's an indicator to us as an audience of like, no, she's legit. This is actually happening right now. Yeah. And when she lets go, she looks concerned, but then smiles and she says, thank you. Cassian asks what for. And she says this, the clarity, that feeling. It's been a very long time. I thought it had been gone for good. It's so easy to lose faith. They come no matter what. Sometimes it even works. But this, you, all that you've been gathering, the strength, the spirit, surely you must feel it. And Cassian's kind of like, what are you talking? He's like, I'll work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, just like, I just got to get out of this conversation. And like, she doesn't know completely how to put what she's feeling into a coherent, concise thought, right? She's just kind of like, oh, I'm getting this thing and I'm trying to express like off the top of my head what it can feel, what it feels like. She's saying like all the rest of these rebels, they're going to come to me no matter what, because they want the promise of healing or of,
blessing or something
or
like
whatever
that.
it is. Yeah. But Cassian like wants the opposite, does not want to be there at all. And yet he's like the only one she's feeling this like call for, if that makes sense.
Like she's fulfilling her purpose through him too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, that's why she was there, is to pass on
this
message basically.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so good. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So Cassian's clearly freaked out. Bix realizes that she saw something and Cassian leaves. And when he's gone, Bix tells her that she scared him, not something easy to do. And the Force healer asks Bix who he is. And then the Force healer tells Bix what she saw. She says this, I sense the weight of things I can't see, pain, fear, need. Most beings carry the things that shape them. They carry the past, but some, very few, your pilot, they're gathering as they go. There's a purpose to it. He's a messenger. There's some place he needs to be. And of course, how can you not think about he's got to get the message out about the Death Star plans on Scarif?
Right. It's that. It's like he has a message that he has to send in the future. But then there's also like he's a messenger of hope, of like he's the reason why the rebellion can let that little seed of hope grow into winning the Galactic Civil War and forming the New Republic. And so I think there's like a couple different ways you can look at it, but very fitting. Definitely feels prophetic.
It's definitely it feels like a prophecy over him in a way, and it made my eyes water, Mac. I was feeling this was such a powerful scene to me, and it felt like this right here is the magic of Star Wars.
Yeah, this is where I was crying in episode 7. Just the power of it. Just the it was good to. Like, we've had our eyes down to the ground level for this whole season, or this whole story, really. And it was good to kind of lift our eyes up to the stars a little bit and see the bigger picture, even cosmologically.
Yeah. And it makes you, I think it's going to make you watch Rogue One a little bit differently, too.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like there's kind of a more of a weight to what's happening because of this prophecy now of like, oh no, like the Force truly is at work and among these normal non-Force using people, which I love. I love that. So the conversation continues, and the Force healer says to Bix, maybe you're the place he needs to be. And the two share a moment before she eventually walks away. And this scene is going to linger with me for a very long time. Yeah. I don't know, this was just such a special scene, something that honestly, I just want to keep going back and rewatching this scene over and over and over again. It's so good.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to talk about it again once we get to episode 9, because I think it's
there's another kind of
to circle
yep.
back to. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to Gorman. And we fade to Gorman as Syril stops Enza in the streets. And this is where my theory comes in. Mac, do you get the sense that there was maybe something going on between these two?
Yeah, like maybe. It seems like
little. I mean, just the way he's talking to her feels more personal than it should to me.
Yeah, I think you can read that in. I didn't necessarily have that thought watching it through the first time, but I definitely can see that. I mean, it's almost like, because they're on sort of opposite sides and they're kind of coming clean to each other to, like, I think they really know both of their positions in all of this, right? Mm-hmm. So that implies that maybe they've become familiar with each other on a personal level.
There's even in this scene some sort of implication of maybe Syril really wants the Gorman front to succeed, or at least not be destroyed, right? It feels like he's developed personal feelings with the Gorman front in general.
Yeah, I definitely think that he's at least rethinking, like, him being kind of embedded with the Gorman people has given him a different perspective on the Empire and what the role of, like, law and order is, I think. Yeah. Because, like, he's got very different attitudes to all this than where we saw him in season 1 in, like, that first arc, you know?
Yeah. Definitely a big change in his character.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see in characters. You don't want them to be the same.
Static.
All that static. Yeah. So, yeah, he tries to warn her about the outside agitators and tries to lay it on them before she smacks him and leaves him alone in the streets, because you're exactly right. They've kind of figured him out of, like, we're not using you anymore.
Yeah.
We feel like you've manipulated us. We're done. This relationship that we had, it's all done. So I think on one end, Syril feels like he's lost something, right? Like, and maybe, okay, actually, this is kind of hitting me now. This is starting to make sense. He's lost his purpose again. Like, his whole purpose was to infiltrate the Gorman front and, essentially be a spy. And what Dedra's telling him is, this is all over. And then what Enza's telling him is, this is all over. And he's starting to realize, it's all over. I have no purpose again.
Yeah, and he's maybe even losing his purpose ideologically as he gets to know the Gormans and gets familiar with them and stuff. Just because he's almost losing faith in what he's doing from the Imperial side. It certainly seems that way in this arc, at least to me. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure. We cut back to Yavin 4, and Cassian checks his shoulder, and it's actually healing. It's actually gotten better, and Bix knows it too. And Cassian tells her not to tell people what he does, and they talk about what happened, but Cassian says that she's just a cook in the mess hall. Like, she's not really what you think she is. She's just, just a normal person, and Bix knows something really happened back there. And it seems like Cassian's trying to find any sort of explanation to talk that away, because, that's not anything that he believes in and doesn't seem like he really wants to believe in.
Yeah. And I don't know that he comes around on the Force stuff ever. Like, I don't know that that's
maybe right at the end of Rogue One. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But
like,
like,
I think everybody starts to get that way towards the end, right? Like
Right.
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I could probably use joining an everlasting energy force right about now.
Yeah.
I think it's also cool. Like, I like that they do this scene with this dynamic, because whether Cassian believes in this or not, it's still true, right? Like, I mean, we see that it happens. Like, he does all of that. Like, it comes to pass. So like, it supports the whole idea of the cosmic force being kind of this unseen, unknowable thing that
it has a will almost.
Right. I mean, so like, even if Han Solo, which obviously Han Solo saw some stuff and came around on this, but like where we see him in A New Hope, he didn't believe in any of it. It's all, just hokey religion or whatever.
Right.
And then, but he's still able to be part of this big story and this big saga.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't have to be a Jedi. You don't have to have the words for it and everything like that. You can still kind of fulfill your purpose in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah.
And that can be tied into the cosmic thing.
The big story.
Yeah.
The mythology is what what you said is just the perfect way to put that. But yeah, Bix says that she's actually felt this before too. She's had dreams of Cassian being a messenger, and the music in the scene is really, really great. I want to point that out. I really, really enjoy the music in this episode in particular. Well, and actually all three of these episodes.
In all three of these episodes, but this moment in particular, I also took note of. And just the cinematography is really beautiful. All the Yavin stuff is so gorgeous.
It looks so good. It looks so good, dude. So Cassian is rejecting his calling, but Bix encourages Cassian to let it in, and they embrace as he starts to realize it's true. He has purpose. He has destiny. I think he's kind of like, I don't know if he's fully realizing it, but you can tell on his face that he's thinking about it at the very least, of like, maybe there's something to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then we switch to the next morning inside the Rebel base as Draven, which is really cool. This is a character that we see in Rogue One. We haven't seen him yet, and he just gives such a great Rebel general vibe.
Yeah.
I think
last week I had said that I hoped we got to see all of the principles that were around the table in Rogue One, right? Yeah. And this is a major one. This is a big one. Really rounding out that list here, because we've got Bail, we've got Mon, we've got Draven now. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah, and so he's inside the Rebel base and he marches through it. I did another fist pump. I love this so much. There's a lot of Rebel pilots and soldiers going to and fro. There's a busyness inside. Oh my gosh, it feels so. I mean, because like, how do you not feel something inside of just thinking about all the times you were a kid watching A New Hope over and over and over again, and like, we're here. This is the same place.
Yeah, it's like in A New Hope, you hear about the rebellion or in the Rebel Alliance for a long time, and then it's not until like almost the beginning of the third act that you finally get to the Rebel Alliance, right?
Yeah,
and you see that it's this big facility with like tons of activity and all the systems in place and all that stuff, and you just kind of get to come into the middle of it. It feels like, for Andor, we've done the whole the 2/3, like the first two acts trying to get here, and now it's like we've finally reached the rebellion. We're in the third act. We're gonna bring this puppy home.
It feels so good too.
It's good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so he's marching through the base, and Draven stops at Cassian's U-Wing as he and Will pack up, and he confronts him saying that the ship is to be fitted with hypercoms the next day, but Cassian says that he has a personal trip. Very much Han Solo kind of attitude right here, And that interaction that they have with Han Solo in A New Hope, and even in The Empire Strikes Back a little bit in the beginning of like, he's just kind of a mercenary freelance.
Yeah. It's like,
he's not permanent. Yeah.
I'm helping out. I'm doing the right thing a little bit, but let's not get it twisted. I'm in charge of me and my loyalties are to me.
Right.
And like, I understand that with where Cassian's come up and, especially also being part of the whole Luthen operation and everything, it gets messy. But it is something he's going to have to put aside eventually. If he wants to become that messenger, we know he's going to.
Yeah, and Draven even says it from the Rebel Alliance perspective. Those who enjoy the security of Yavin must proclaim their loyalties. So it seems like Cassian hasn't fully done that yet. Like, you haven't said that you're with us all the way yet. So if you want to stay here, you got to do that eventually. And Cassian says the day he needs permission to come and go, he's gone. And Draven warns him that day is coming. That day is near. But Cassian leaves anyway, and then we see them jump from the shadow of the Yavin gas giant, which the CGI on the show looks great. They did such a good job.
Gorgeous. And just the production design, the sets, the costumes, oh my gosh, everything. Top to bottom, it is the most expensive looking piece of TV I've seen in a very long time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It looks incredible. We cut to Gorman and the Imperial soldiers meant to agitate arrive. The sergeant gets smart with Captain Kaido and he sets his place pretty quickly, and he lets the sergeant know who's in charge there. And all while this is happening, Dedra is watching, and she is not impressed. She thinks that they actually look like children.
And they do.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of young guys.
Yeah. And then we see Cassian arrive with Will in the U-Wing, and he shows off his piloting skills as they skim above the trees of Gorman. And you can see Will getting a little bit nervous. And we cut back to Yavin, and Vel enters the hut confronting Bix. And it's been a while since they've seen each other. And she's helping train the new recruits, and we get another indication that there's been a fallout with Luthen. They're not saying exactly what happened, but you get the sense like everyone's just kind of frustrated with Luthen. Nobody really wants to work with them anymore. He's lost a lot of his go-to people to this operation on Yavin.
Yeah. Yep. It's it's a big deal. And I get why. I mean, Yavin has a sense of community, a sense of safety in numbers and security and like stability, I get it.
Yeah. So Bix knows that she's looking for Cassian, but Draven and Dodonna, General Dodonna of A New Hope and also a Rogue One, he's pretty much the guy running the base at Yavin, want Vel to speak with Bix. They need Cassian. They're on the verge of promoting him, but he's too much of a wild card. And Bix truly believes in what they're doing. They aren't Luthen's puppets anymore. They're building a real army. And Bix promises that Cassian will be there when they need him. So she's kind of like defending him while he's gone. It's like, listen, you can count on him when you need him.
Yeah.
But just trust me, he's got to do this thing.
Yeah, like he needs his space, he needs kind of his agency and everything like that, but he'll be there when it counts. That's what she's trying to say, I think.
Yeah. On Gorman, the curfew has gone into effect. There's an alarm buzzing in the plaza to let everyone know, and the Imperials are forcing people to get out of the plaza. Cassian and Will arrive in the plaza, and Cassian questions when all of this happened, because the last time he was there, it definitely did not have this feel to it.
Yep.
And Will says for the last few months, and then they promise each other to check the comms after they get settled down. Will then confirms which room Dedra is spotted at, and she comes out once or twice a day, and Cassian asks if the glass will make him take 2 shots, and Will promises to check in on that when his guy arrives. They hug, and Will says Ferrix, and Cassian replies with Stone and Sky, and I thought that was a really nice callback.
Yeah, it is a good callback, and to it's reminding us that they've got this shared background, this shared history, and that's kind of that's really what both their homes are.
Absolutely. Inside the hotel, Cassian stops at the attendant, and it's the same attendant he used as his Varian Sky alias last few episodes.
Yep.
And at first I was super worried, Mac. I was like, oh no, he's giving him a different name. His new alias is Ronnie Guja, Midrim News.
Ronnie Guja. I think I went to college with that guy.
And weird enough, he was working for Midrim
News. That's correct. Yeah, strange enough.
Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking, like, is this guy going to turn him in? What's going on? But because of the kindness that Cassian showed him, I think the attendant kind of picks up pretty quickly what he is actually there for and does not alert anybody. He
does
so
like what Nimic would call a small act of insurrection.
That's not the only thing he does. This guy actually says something.
He does a large act of insurrection later.
He does. The attendant says he's never heard of that news station, and you're starting to get the realization the attendant does in fact know who Cassian is, and he allows Cassian entry, and he'll be able to go and get his credentials tomorrow. Then the attendant gives him a room with a clear view of the plaza. I think he does that on purpose because he kind of realizes
I think
he needs to
that's
see
true.
everything. Yeah.
He makes a big point of like telling him it's got a good view of the plaza.
Yeah. Before leaving, he warns Cassian that his coworker will report him. He has until tomorrow afternoon before if you're going to do something, you've got until that time before you need to leave.
Yeah.
Before he leaves, he tells Cassian he will have to carry his own bag this time, confirming he does know he's a spy. Like, okay. He kind of lets Cassian know, I remember you. And so Cassian goes and he enters his room and gets the lay of the land. Down in the catacombs, Will is with the rest of the Gorman front, and he turns on his comms. We also learn that Will has a new girlfriend, and he's kind of a ladies' man. Everywhere he goes, he's got a girlfriend.
Yeah, he's making friends. Good
for you, Will. Cassian and Will check in on the comms, and then Cassian removes his awesome gun. This is a really, really sweet. Like, if I were a kid, I would be hoping that they made this set of to play with,
just so I could like take it apart and reassemble it over and over and over.
It's the same one he has in Rogue One, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If not, it's very, very similar.
It's the one that he takes to go assassinate
Yedu. Yeah.
He uses his scope to check Dedra's command center, and then he hears a couple of stormtroopers talking just above him, and he uses a mirror to check in on them and slightly opens his window to get an idea of how he's going to do this assassination. And then we cut to black. It's the end of the episode. I loved this episode, and here's the thing. It only gets better from here, and it's because like this was a fantastic episode. It's like, oh my gosh, this is great. But somehow they top it in the next episode, and then somehow they top that one.
In the next one. It is like we start here, and I was already like, okay, we're back on, baby. We're back full steam ahead, and we just keep gaining momentum.